Ba-ba-ba-bam. Hey, what's happening? You are here at the live stream of consciousness. That means it's Thursday. That means I'm here because you're hearing me now. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that I'm here. This is my favorite place to be within my intention to do what I love to do. So here we are. I'm excited. Um, I have a great guest tonight. I am talking to an old friend of mine uh, who is a creative being, a creative entity. He's very talented with words in particular. So uh, I build it as the beauty of language because I think that's what we're going to experience tonight. What's up, Lily? How you doing? Good to see you out there. And anyway, so I met Michael Clarity years ago on the in the music scene, actually, at a place called Munchaba Lounge. I'm sure we're going to get into some conversations about that. So I'm just going to bring him right on and induct him into the live stream of consciousness. Hey, Clarity, what's happening?
That quick. Wow. This
You
is
thought
awesome. Hey, that intro is exciting, man.
you like it?
Yeah,
Cool.
I felt like I forgot I was going to be on the show. I was getting ready to watch like a cool movie or something. That was
Oh,
dope.
that's awesome. I was wondering about the music if it was a little too like aggressive and heavy, but it felt right when I made it, and I love it, and most people love it. But I have gotten feedback. Some people are like, "Ooh, that music is a little scary," and I'm
It's
like, "Well,
exciting.
I thank you. I agree with you. Thank you. I appreciate the feedback." Uh, but I'm excited because it's been a while since we spoke, although that's not 100% true. We recently reconnected and got to work together, revamped your website a little bit, and also I took a new class of yours that you're doing. So I want to get into that as well. What's up, Helen? Good to see you. I first have to induct you into the live stream of consciousness. I don't know if you've seen the show before, but there's a couple of questions you got to answer and then you get the stage completely.
Okay.
Um,
Exciting.
so, so the first question, which is so great to ask because everybody's got their own answer and everybody's answer is correct, and that is, what is consciousness? What is consciousness to you, Clarity?
Consciousness. Well, consciousness is what separates me and you from a brick. And I think that consciousness is the thing that powers us. And consciousness might be it might be the only eternal thing because we
Oh.
really have no proof of where it comes from or where it goes or if it goes anywhere
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
or if it comes from anywhere, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I, I
So,
I just love the fact that I got you thinking, man. I'm looking at you and you're just like, wow, I never really had to think about what consciousness was before. No one ever asked me that before.
well, it's a good question because it's one of these concepts that we throw around a lot,
Hmm, hmm.
but I think it's good to drill down to those kinds of things
Yeah.
and toss it around. These kinds of questions that don't necessarily have right or wrong answers.
Hmm, hmm.
I think those are the kinds of questions that help us pursue our consciousness, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
absolutely, absolutely. It's the question that makes you aware of what is a question, what is an answer, how is this all happening?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of really interesting, and I started to realize that it's probably not a question you can answer in just a couple of sentences, truthfully. You know what I mean? It's like it's a discussion and a half at least. But it's a good I think it's a good way to kind of set the mood for the discussions that I like to have uh about just what existence is, and who we are as humans, and who you are as you, and who I am as me, and how that's unique and how that's also connected. So all of those things is what this show is about, this moment that we're having here together. um so the next question is really before we get into what you're doing now, it's kind of how you got to where you're at, and that is, most of my guests, the content's changing a little bit, but most of my guests have been of a very spiritual background, and what's the word I'm looking for, their oh my god, I can't think of the word. It's what they do. So psychic mediums, people who read akashic records, people like that were initially the people who I was bringing on the show, because I'm friends with a lot of these kinds of people, and they all work in different modalities, but they all resonate very strongly with me, and I resonate very strongly with them. So that's kind of what started it. But now, I'm having people who maybe aren't traditionally spiritual, but also connected to the whole thing. And that's why when we worked together, I was like, holy shit, how come I never had Michael on the show? So the question is this. The question is, do you have a specific moment, or was it just something always there that you realized that what was being traditionally told and taught to you might not necessarily be everything, or might not necessarily be the good stuff, that there was more to reality than we were led to believe? Or do you even believe that?
Well, yeah, I do believe that. Indubitably, I do believe I've been duped as a youth. And yeah, my whole life. You were struggling for the word, and I wanted to go weirdos. You have weirdos on your show, but I didn't want to discredit anyone. But I mean weirdos in the best way,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
my whole life, I've been a weirdo,
Mhm.
and I think that's part of this, like, sensing of something, being, on the other side of the veil.
Mhm, mhm.
And I actually have a moment or two in my life
Awesome.
where I distinctly, I don't know if this is the question you're asking, but I think it's relative, because I have this really vivid memory of, like, discovering autonomy
Mhm,
and what it meant to be alive. And
mhm.
it hit me like a ton of bricks, and unconscious bricks. But it,
So I was just thinking how funny it was that
yeah,
was the word you used.
it was funny. But I remember I used to live in the third grade. I want to say this is like, shoot, I don't know, 80, maybe 88, 89 or something.
Mhm,
Um, and in the third grade, I only lived like 10 houses away from the school. So I would
mhm,
walk to school by myself. And I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
mhm,
Um,
mhm, mhm.
but I distinctly remember walking, and my memory is like, can I curse on here? Or is it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my memory is shit. So it's like funny that I remember specifically Harding Avenue School in Lindenhurst, walking on the
Right.
sidewalk, the baseball, the fence, and the yard is here, the field is here to my left, and I'm walking, and I just get this overwhelming sense of, like, wait a minute, this is like, this is my body, and this is a life that I have that, well, yeah, I'm young and I have parents, and, like, they're kind of in charge of me, and teachers and stuff like that, but I can kind of, like, do whatever I want to do with
Right.
this, like, video game that I have. Maybe it was because I play a lot of video games, but I didn't relate it to that. I didn't feel like that. It was like, it was quite overwhelming actually, because I was like, well, I don't know, like, I'm
Awesome.
too young to process this kind of thought.
That's
Um,
great. I love this story.
but I remember, like, I remember that. That's a moment that, like, sticks with me.
Sure.
And it's only like as I go deeper and start to unfold like my reality these days,
Hmm.
that I kind of go back there and find more meaning in that moment.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And I think really it was just my higher self. Look, I think that our higher selves are always trying to communicate with us,
Hmm.
um, especially to create art.
Hmm.
I think that that's what art is. I think art is a communication from a higher realm that whispers in the ear of the artist and tries to keep the conversation going, you know? And some people get the message, some people don't, some people get it garbled, some people, you know, pretend they hear a message. And I think that that's probably what that was. That was like the first real like noticing of this like higher self
Right.
telling me like, hey man, you can have some fun with this thing, you know?
That's all. That's such a great story, and that's it. That is a young age to make a realization like that, and that it reminds me of, and I'm sure you're familiar with Eckhart Tolle, uh, the moment that he realizes the eye behind the eye, like who is the eye that's saying I can't take it anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I can't live like this anymore. Well, wait, who's the I that's saying I can't live like this anymore? At that moment, it sounds like that's, I can relate it to that. Like, wow, I am an I, you know, and that's awesome. So that does answer the question. I would love to hear another story. If you said you had a couple of moments that you remember like that, that's the kind of stuff I love to hear about and talk about, because I feel like there's so much energy to sharing that with someone else, because they have experiences that can relate to it, and it's like the same kind of revelations into existence.
Yeah, no, I think sharing story, like that's my whole shit is sharing stories.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
and especially these kind of like weird vulnerable ones, because if you don't have a support system around unpacking that kind of stuff, you tend to just shut it down, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
because it doesn't fit. It's like, thank God I wasn't like I don't know. Well, I can't think about that kind of shit. I got to go to school right now. Like I was like, oh, I didn't know how to express what I was feeling, but it stayed with me,
Right,
and it
right.
and it continued. Um, it continued my whole life. But I distinctly remember, um, which is where I think my voice came from as a poet, as a writer, because I'm always trying to like be honest and be vulnerable because I believe in that as the path to transformative art,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
um and I think that we become honest and vulnerable through art by becoming witnesses for ourselves, and by
Hmm.
becoming a witness for ourselves goes back to that listening and bearing witness and not passing judgment. And I remember I was 17 and I had a fight with my dad, had this argument, and I got so mad. And like, I grew up like most people. There's not conflict resolution. There's just, that you argue and then an hour later you pretend like nothing happened, or you stay mad, or you get petty, or whatever it is. But there wasn't a lot of conflict resolution
We're
in
not
in my
taught how to
house.
process. Yeah, we're not taught how to process that
No,
kind of
no, nobody's taught
stuff.
because
Yeah.
nobody's taught because nobody's taught, and it just goes on and on.
Right,
And it
right.
took me a while to get rid of that angst and finally become the age that my dad was when I was that age, and be like, oh shit, yeah, no, how could I know? Like, I don't even have a son. Like, how could I know what to do? But
Right.
I remember something coming over me. I remember having this fight, and I remember like just being a jerk. And whatever I did is like I pushed back just for the sake of pushing back, just to make things worse. And I went into my room and I sat there, and then something just came over me. And it was this feeling of like, because I went from like anger and frustration to like clarity. Like I caused most of that. Let me see. Can I uncause that?
Mhm.
Like, what would happen right now if I took the biggest risk I've ever taken and I walked in there and I said I'm sorry? Because that's unprecedented in our family. I
Mhm.
will. I witnessed a lot of fighting, and
Mhm.
I never
Mhm.
heard anybody say I'm sorry. And I was like, well, that's a cool twist, you know? Let's see how that. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, yeah.
And it felt good to think about it because
Yeah.
it felt like it was like my first taste of like vulnerability as a cheat code. And I remember my dad was washing dishes, and there's a cutout from the dining room to the kitchen, so you could stand on the other side of the sink, and talk with him. I
Right.
remember he was washing dishes, and I came out of my room, and he was still, he was like kind of ready for
Yeah.
more.
What do you
And
want? Right.
I think I just said something like, "Look, I know you have a lot happening, and I have a lot happening, and I'm just trying to figure out my way, and I could have done that better, and I'm sorry." Something like
Wow.
that, right? I
Powerful.
remember he was like, I remember he could see his hands kept moving, and he just kind of looked at me like like that's not like I don't know what to do with that. And to
Yeah.
his credit, like I'm not saying he was dumbfounded, but I remember the look on his face, and I'm not sure how it went from there. I think I kind of just was like, I think I'm done here, and like kind of
Right,
walked
right, right,
away.
right.
And I
No, but
remember
that's
how
powerful.
great that felt.
Yeah, that's so powerful. That whole story is amazing. I love it.
And I think that, yeah, and I remember, and that's when I first started getting obsessed with like the idea of like the third eye, the opening eye, because it's like,
Right,
look, I mean, I grew up, lower middle class, Long Island, blue
right,
collar family. There's no spiritual, Christian, like there's no third eye talk, there's no chakra talk. But
right,
this idea of like your third eye, somehow, somewhere in my periphery of that eye, it came,
right,
it
right, right.
came into my
Well,
to
I
my
feel like
field.
the story you're telling me is one of choice. You suddenly realized I can go along with how this is played out over and over and just the way it's supposed to go because I feel like I have no choice, or I can choose my own adventure here. You know what I mean? Choose and take a different path. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it was more exciting too because it was like, in a way, I wanted to like fuck up my dad by being honest and like being vulnerable, in a way, and just being like, what happens if we just say we're wrong,
Right, right, right.
you know?
Absolutely.
And I remember like I was like, that felt good. I think I want to figure out how to do more of that,
That's awesome.
that kind of stuff.
Such a good
And
story.
it's been 30 years of trying to do more of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
And both of those stories are perfect to answer the question that I asked and to kind of be like, how is it that you came to be? And it's through. I would say that's very representative of how I know you. And I'm going to bring something up in a minute, but I just want to acknowledge the chat. Jilly's there. What's up, Jilly? She says mic drop moment. So that's funny because that was like your first official, mic
Yeah.
drop moment. And it's funny because Clarity is, like I said, he's a wordsmith. He's a poet and spoken artist. So when Clarity talks about creating art, you know, Clarity's art is the spoken word, and he a little bit of it slipped out earlier when I said something about being, realizing that what was it that you said? Do you remember? It
I do
just came
believe
out of you.
indubitably. I do believe indubitably. I've been duped as a youth. The truth is nothing new to me, and now I have proof.
Awesome. So I love that so much because I don't think I think I'd seen it on like MTV, like spoken word a little bit, but like I didn't realize how amazingly creative and artistic it was until we became friends and I saw you doing what you were doing with the group of people that you were doing with the Muse Exchange, and all the people I remember I got involved with, what's his name, Keon, KJ, and Labyrinth Soul, playing some music for a little while because it was like that crossover of music and spoken word, and like it was just so good, such amazing stuff, because it's like art and creative, and it stimulates your brain, and it's like it's just such a great thing. So I do want to get into that. I do want to talk about the recent experience that we had, because now you've taken all of your experiences, and I do want to get into some of the experiences about just taking off to Hawaii with a one-way ticket. But you've taken all of these experiences and your skill with language, and you've wrapped it up into a very cool workshop, which I had the privilege of taking, kind of your flagship test run. And I got to tell you, I want to say surprisingly, but I wasn't surprised. It was like, I think that's why I was there, because there was such a crossover between spirituality and a writing workshop. You know, I mean, immediately when you started, you just jumped right into kind of clearing and healing, and these things that are a big part of the spiritual community, and applied them to just getting into your own brain and writing. And it was amazing for me, because I had written here and there, and I do enjoy writing, but I'm not really it's not something I do all the time. And man, it just came right out, and it was so emotional, and it was just so perfect. So I'm gonna bring up your website here for a second. I just want to show people where they can get in touch with you. Give me 1 second. So I'm going to bring it up. I'm also going to put it here at the bottom of the screen, so people can actually. How come that didn't save? Scroll. Oh, there it is. Boom. So that is where you can find it. And now I'm just going to share it on the screen. I should have had this ready to go, but I did not. Here we go. So here's Clarity's website. We just redid this. I was so honored when he said, "Hey man, can you help me out and kind of redo this?" And it went like so smooth. We were just right on the same page. He was so happy with it, and I was so happy with it. It even inspired me to write the little paragraph that's there about you. But why don't you tell us about the workshop? How did that come about, and tell us about it, so you can get some people interested.
First of all, thank you. The site looks great. I'm really stoked on that, because it's a tool that I've been needing, and it's really helped me get everything dialed in and get it to a point where I can just go on and update the dope infrastructure that you've already laid out. So thank you.
Awesome.
The workshop is the next logical progression of my life's work, really. I mean, writing means so much to me. Community means so much to me. Performing, poetry. I didn't really find my way in this world until I found poetry. Poetry led me to a community, which led me to like brothers and sisters that are still here today, you know? Real shit, like really real shit. And one of the things that I do is curate and host open mics, like you said. Going back to Munchaba, I didn't curate that one, but that was such an important part of my life that it spawned what I'm doing now with the Muse Exchange. And I wanted to take what I was already doing and just turn it all the way up, and really start to be able to unpack and explore the power of becoming a witness for yourself through poetry, through writing. I don't even call it a poetry workshop, because I'm not qualified to teach a poetry workshop. This is a writing workshop built on vulnerability and trust. And that's where I feel the most comfortable teaching from.
Authenticity is
authenticity.
Yeah.
Yes. And the open mic, you know, Alan Semergian, a friend of ours, says it's like the Cosa Nostra is a friend of ours. The open mic is a classroom, you know, and it really is. The open mic is a place to be witnessed and to witness others. And when you're getting up there and you're becoming vulnerable and you are witnessed on that level, something really transformative happens. So I thought, what if I back it up even more and try to help people become transformative before they even get on the mic, in their writing. And I really want to do more meaningful work in my life. I'm 42 years old, and I've spent most of my life being insert occupation that happens to be a writer. And I think that is a bit of a tragedy, because I've missed out on a lot, because I had this identity that I wasn't good enough to be a professional, so I could do these things for earning money, for living, while doing poetry on the side, or whatever it is. So I've made a full pivot into trying to do more meaningful work.
Awesome.
That takes more of my time, something that I can put value on, that people will be happy to pay for, but also I've created a whole scholarship option for people if they can't afford it.
That's amazing. That was I was like, I got to say, I am blown away from the minute we started talking to each other, and I did the website. Even the process of doing the website with you, I was just like, oh my God, this feels so amazing. This is awesome. And taking the course and just watching you are blooming like a flower right now, like seriously coming out into your own being. I want to just acknowledge Jill, because she's all excited. Jill is an amazing friend of mine who is so charged up with energy. She loves your passion. And
thanks, Jill.
Yes, when you're talking about helping people come into their power. And I think I told Jill the day after the class that we took that I got emotional. I mean, I was crying during that class. It was so amazing, and it was such a, for me, crying, and you'll like this because this is kind of a poetic description of what crying is, and that is, you hear all of this mysticism that you can manifest with a thought. You can manifest something physical, right? And that's what crying is. When you're crying, you're taking a thought and it's manifesting itself in your body, like as this lump in your throat that you feel physically. You feel it as water that comes pouring out of your eyes. Like, it's real, it's physical. You've taken a thought and you've transformed that thought into something physical. And to me, that's like the moment that you're touching your soul. Like that's just such a powerful moment,
And I think that kind of stuff is essential to transformation.
Absolutely.
Transformative art. I think that's the kind of stuff you really need to do. I think so many people cried that day. And It's funny, in that part of the workshop, more often than not, somebody cries. Right. Somebody always cries during that part. And I think it's great. And they always apologize. And it's like, no, because you just granted everybody else permission to cry. Permission to cry granted.
Totally.
And that's the kind of shit that we need to do more of. And, not in a, not in this like hippy dippy way, but in a real way that creates real transformation. People need this environment where they can feel safe to share the kinds of things that makes them cry, because where else is it going to go?
Yep. Absolutely. If your whole heart is in it, then it will be authentically powerful. Julie's saying so genuine. So I want to get into your story and you going into Hawaii. And for me, there's something really special about that whole story, because again, this was a moment that I connected with you on this weird level.
Maui Red.
What's that?
Maui Red.
No. It was something that you wrote, and actually, I don't know if you're going to be able to read it, so I might actually read it. I'm sharing this. This is on my Facebook page. I actually saved this post that you made, and I'm going to bring it up, and it's March 17th, 2014, and I'm sure you can't read it, but this is what I was talking about. This is the day you were getting on a flight to go to Hawaii. You had just decided, you know what, I need to go find myself. And you got a one-way ticket to Hawaii, and you said, you know what, I'm gonna go to Hawaii and I'll figure it out from there. And which is such a powerful freaking bold move, and an amazing move. But can you read that or no? Should I read it?
I can't see it.
Okay. So it says, I'm sitting in the airport at 1 a.m. awaiting a 6:45 flight to LA. A woman
Oh yeah, the lady crying. Oh yeah. Okay.
This is such a powerful moment, and this is what I was talking about, because for you, you're sharing it, but for you, this was a moment of realization. You were just like, holy fuck, look at me. Like, you just took a big look at yourself in this woman, in the reflection of this woman. You took a look at yourself and you expressed it in a Facebook post that is so fucking eloquently written that I cried when I read it, and I'll probably cry if I read the whole thing. I'll try to read some of it, but it says, I'm sitting in the airport at 1 a.m. awaiting a 6:45 flight to LA. A woman in her 60s that appears to be very well kept approaches me and motions towards the outlet that was wedged between my bags and the chair. I move my bags to reveal the outlet. She plugs in and promptly sits on my bags. Humph. I pull my stuff from beneath the woman's oblivious ass so that she can have the chair. I noticed her overstuffed lips as she sat on the edge of her seat, waiting for her phone to charge, as if she was fueling her SUV and the top-off moment was imminent, just hurried and tweaked and tense and wound real tight. I'm hurling lightning bolts of judgment at this lady, just chucking daggers of hate like, look at this privileged bitch. And before I know it, I'm enshrouded in this tar-like muck of frustrated contempt while contemplating the audacity of her entire existence. The moment passes. I get distracted, or whatever it is that Buddhists call the worldly winds, when in your mind you travel from emotional space to emotional space. I suddenly find myself in a new moment, not even thinking about the lady, until she reappears behind me and to the right, talking on the now presumably juiced up phone. She's weeping. No, she's sobbing. No, she's bawling. This woman crying, this woman is crying that kind of deep wounded cry that takes your breath away. The kind of cry that has you hiccuping and snotting and convulsing. She's body crying, and I can tell she's trying real hard to keep it together, so this isn't some needy show. This is real. She's broken. My heart sunk for her. Our realities are so different in this moment, but I've cried like that, and chances are I'm probably going to cry like that again real soon. So I began holding space for her. I almost turned around to acknowledge her. I wanted to comfort her. Within moments, my relationship with this woman darted from one side of the chart to the other. I started thinking about how gross it was for me to have flung those hate grenades at her atop whatever pillar it was I thought I could stand it on and judge from. She's not a bitch. She's broken. She isn't being inconsiderate. She's fucked up, and she's mustering whatever sanity she can to get it together enough to just be in this airport and make this phone call. And me, in my arrogant sanctimony, shove her into this dark judgment cave. What a dick. Now I get emotional. Dude, this is so fucking powerful. We need to practice displacing judgment with compassion and shave the ego down to a less jagged pill, myself included. I don't like the way it feels when I'm found trudging through the judgment swamp. It's gross and counterintuitive. It distracts us from the real work of creating love. I've been doing this practice lately of living my life from this objective third-person view, like some being John Malkovich shit, just letting me be whoever it is I am and do whatever it is I do, but paying attention and adjusting accordingly. Even when I'm not being my best self, especially then, there becomes this added dimension of consciousness that allows you to see what you're up to and maybe even why. It caused me to pause and consider how I was being a jerk to this lady and wasting my life force in some cosmic crack house called hate. But it's a practice. I'll probably throw another hate grenade at some point, but I'm becoming more aware of those moments, and eventually I'll be able to start putting the pins back in and launching a fluffy rainbow love balloon instead. I know the fluffy love balloon line is cringeworthy and disgusting, and you're judging me for it. So let's start with that. Wow, dude.
A cosmic crack house called hate.
Dude, that is, oh my God, such an amazing piece of writing. Like that, like you said, like you are not something like that happens to also be a writer. You are a writer that happens to have to do shit to get by in this fucked up system that we live in. That's what you are. You are truly a writer and a purveyor of words and thought. Like, that's your skill, man. That is just serious shit. So thank you for writing that. That was just such an amazing piece of work, and I'm so glad I saved it and I'm able to bring it up. That shift in perspective, how we all assume. Yeah, it's such a, I think the reason it's so powerful is because it applies to everybody, no matter who you are. You can understand what's happening in that story, and you can put yourself in that place. And Tim is saying, nice brother.
Thank you, man. Thank you for holding on to that. So that's got to be like 9 years old by now.
Yeah,
Something like that.
2014. Yeah, 2014.
8 years. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, I think what I try to do when I'm writing like that also is like, look, I can reach all the people with the open hearts already, but because they have the open hearts and they want to hear the message, any message that like promotes love, which is great. But I'm interested in reaching everybody, and talking in a way that I would, just, friends that aren't cut from that kind of cloth, but also have the ability to access the witness inside of themselves too.
Yeah.
They need like tougher language and better, just it's just a different signal. It's just a different signal.
Yeah.
So it's just like tuning. It's just like trying to tune that writing. It's like being on stage performing.
Yeah, but there's so much love behind it. Like, you're doing it with so much love and craftsmanship, that's and intention, which is what we talk about here all the time. I think that's why it's so great, authentic.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and that's that whole observer. I'm still trying to do that shit.
Yeah,
Even,
totally. I just want to acknowledge Brian's here, the Wizard of Odd. Brian has we do a show called The Fool's Journey, which is he has a tarot deck, and we're learning all about the tarot, card by card, and he's saying the Fool's Journey for real. So
I'd love to check that out. I want to know more about the tarot.
Yeah, Brian is amazing, and he knows more about the tarot than I thought there even was to know. So
cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I'll tell you where to check that out. So let's actually go back and let's talk about that, because I love the journey, and I loved you were posting pictures when you were in Hawaii working on a farm. I'll briefly start it, but I want you to take it over. And that is that you went to Hawaii to go find yourself, one-way ticket. I think from what I saw was, you had a little bit of money, so you started out staying in a hostel. Then you were like, okay, I'm going to go stay on the beach. A bunch of stuff happened. I want you to talk about everything that happened and where you ended up and how you got here.
It's funny that you say I went to find myself, because
that's how I saw it. I mean, I
guess I did. I don't really know though. I don't know. I did find myself out there.
Absolutely.
I love that fucking island.
Me too, and I've only been there once.
The reason why I said, did you hear me say Maui Red? Maui Red?
Yeah.
You don't even know what that is.
No.
Okay.
Maybe.
I was in such a heightened state in the winter of 2014. Like, I had stripped everything away. I had come to California, started trimming weed, had more money at one time than I ever had, had no belonging, little belongings. And, suddenly I was like, I was also a few months removed from a total mental breakdown. I had, this was in December or maybe January of 2014. December, the winter of 2013, 2014. In September, I was in St. Catherine's mental hospital. So this all led to my eventual breakup. So I was just listening for signs of what to do next. Once I was done working in this man's cabin for 3 weeks by myself, and I'd get money if he didn't pay me, if he didn't kill me first, because surely this man wasn't going to really hand me money, because like I was still trying to figure that out. But it happened, and Maui just kept coming up for me. I always thought it'd be really cool to just leave the continent. I had never done that before, you know. I never left Suffolk County. So Maui kept coming up and I kept listening. And you know, one thing after another in the strangest ways. One morning I turned on the local radio and I was like, oh, I think it's 89 or 90. And then I hear a ukulele and it's like, hello, aloha, it's Maui Sundays here on whatever. And I'm like, no shit. And
Wow.
then I don't know if you messaged me directly or you posted something, but you were doing some kind of photo shoot and you posted Maui Red lipstick. The lipstick was Maui Red. And
Wow,
I was like,
really?
okay, fine. And maybe my memory is rewriting that to make this a more interesting story for your show. But I
Right, right,
really
right.
think that was one of the last things that I had to hear. And I was like,
Wow.
okay, I'm going to Maui. And I
But
bought a
but but
one-way
it,
ticket.
but in your memory, it was something that I said that
It was
inspired it.
Maui Red. Yeah. It was the
Wow.
Maui Red. It was like one of the last
I had
Maui
no idea.
references
Wow,
that came
that's
up.
amazing. So I had something to do with that. That's amazing. I'm even more blown away because the universe.
Maybe that's why you feel so connected to that experience.
Yeah, that could be it, man. That's totally it. That's awesome.
Because like the angels were telling you, will you tell this fucking guy to go to Maui? He's not listening to us, you know?
Oh
And
man,
you're like, I guess
so
your
good,
lipstick, you know?
so good, so good. That's so great. Awesome. So all right, so you were told to go to Maui and you figured it out and
I
take it
mean,
from there.
I just thought I just thought you pack a bag and you show up. And that's what I did. For 8 years, I just bought one-way tickets and packed bags. But that was the first time that I had ever done that. So it took me a little bit to like understand how hard it was. Again, hadn't really unpacked my mental health issues. Um, was severely overweight. Am again. I go up and down in weight, but at that point, was really overweight. So traveling, hiking, camping, setting up a tent, like all that. I'm gonna write a book one day just about being a fat guy traveling because it's a whole different world. Um,
That's great.
so it was, you know, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're in, you know, you're in Maui, you're in paradise," and like I was miserable, bro. I was miserable. I loved it, but I was terrified. I was miserable. I just felt trapped in this body, trapped in this state of anxiety and depression,
Mm-hmm.
worthlessness. It's when I started to learn that like you can't change your geography. You got to change, you know, like you got to change other things.
Right, right, right.
Um,
You can't
and
change what's inside by changing what's outside. You got to change it
yeah,
inside.
but
You gotta change
I was willing to try. I'm like, I'm
right,
gonna go
right.
to Maui.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I remember I was hiking. I was looking for a place to set up my tent on the beach in this town called Kihei. And if anybody knows Maui, Kihei is, you know, some people call it Kihel because it's probably like one of the worst places on
Wow.
Maui to like try to camp. But I didn't know.
Right,
And
right.
I stashed my bags in a bush, went to scope out a spot because I brought way too much shit with me. I had 2 huge bags, a lot. Like I just brought so much shit with me. I
Wow.
don't know. That was the worst move.
Mm.
So I had to put them down. So I stashed them, came back, my shit was gone, laptop, journal, money, just everything gone.
Wow.
Well, so I wound up going to a farm because I had just heard about woofing. I had just heard that you could like reach out to farms and do work trade around the country,
Just
around the world. And
explain what that
I
is.
was like,
Just
what's
woof.
that?
Just explain the acronym for people who
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
worldwide opportunities on organic farms. So it's like you sign up for like a year, it's like whatever, $60, and then you have access to this database, and there are farms all over the world, all different kinds of levels of experience, of amenities. You know, you can, some of them are palatial, some of them are beans, rice, and a hammock. And some of them are very like, do you want to take care of animals? Do you want to learn how to grow coffee? You know, all this shit. Um, so you kind of decide where in the world you want to go,
Right.
and you do that, you know, and then you create a profile, and the farm feels you out. You know, it's like internet dating. So
It's cool.
I hadn't gotten around to filling out any application. No, I did actually. I did. I found the application for this farm called Sailing Windward Farm, or the site, but they were like 2-year waiting list. It was like the farm on Maui to go to.
Right.
And I guess I hadn't really done any other work around that. Cut to the chase. I posted a lot of shit. I kept everybody up to date on Facebook, what I was doing. Oh, I got robbed. I'm looking for this. I'm looking for that. A friend on Long Island, from Long Island, Helena. I don't know if you know her. She's an artist.
Mm-hmm.
She had just left a farm, and she's like, "There's a spot open. I'll try to put you in touch." Put me in touch. I explained my situation. Next day, I take a bus. Van picks me up. I go to this farm. It's the farm. It's Sailing Windward Farm. It's like
wow.
the #1 farm where like all the
Universe,
ratings were
man.
like, change my life. That
That's
farm
awesome.
went to be, I can't even do it justice with words.
Yeah.
George and Melissa were our hosts. These are two of the most beautiful people I've ever had the privilege of having in my life.
So awesome. And it's so
for 4 years, I lived on that farm off and on. I went back every year for 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian, the Wizard of Oz, is saying that's an awful feeling. It's the dark night of the soul when you were there and you were like, you said you were miserable. And it's funny because, not funny, but it's interesting because you went there thinking, oh, I can change my geography and I'll be happy. And you went and you actually made yourself so miserable that was where you found the place to make yourself happy, by going to that dark place and kind of, you had to go inside, right? I mean, it seems.
Yeah. That's the thing that Rilke, I don't know if you ever get into any Rilke poetry, but that's Rilke's whole thing, is he talks about using sadness as transformation. Like, if the sadness comes, like, go deeper. It came to you for a reason, but that's heavy lifting, man. You got to be like really serious about wanting to do some shit,
sure,
in order to like be able to play with the sadness and not just try to push it away.
Right. Right. Totally. Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I remember there was another one that stood out in my mind, where you were just talking about how amazing it was to be working in the morning and digging food out of the earth with your hands, and then in the evening sitting at a table and it's being prepared for you to eat. It's like, so it connected you so much to the earth. Or no, I think it was breakfast that you were talking about, like digging your breakfast out of the earth and actually.
Oh yeah, man, just going out and pulling some kale out of the ground and then cooking up some eggs that you just gathered the night before. Yeah, man, it was like nothing else. And again, I know that sounds like very simple things, but like, I have, and especially I have a food addiction, and I have a terrible relationship with food. So this was like the most mindful eating, the most mindful, like wow, like really, really like getting and that was the intention of the farm. That's why George and Melissa did what they did, for 10 years, was to have people come and just learn how to be. George he was a shipbuilder, and he'd come and he'd be like, these kids are showing up on my farm, 18, 19 years old, don't know how to change the oil on the car. It's like, but he also loved, she was a chef. She'd teach people how to cook. He'd teach people how to do mechanic stuff and,
all love,
carpentry.
Man. All love. Yeah.
And that's the real work. That's the real work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Brian's saying amazing. That's exactly what he said. That's where the real work gets done. Exactly. Amazing.
Did I lose you? Oh no. I feel so vulnerable. I'm here by myself. Do I oh, there we go.
Oh, that's so funny. I caught you. I should have just left you, but I should have just sat and watched. I should have just stayed in the backstage and watched you.
I was just gonna like start reading poems.
Deal with the situation. I would love for you to. We still have about 10 minutes to go, if you're cool with that. I love seeing the sun going down in the background as you're sitting there. But I would love if you would have something to perform or read for us. I do want to say I did order one of your t-shirts when you got the website up and going, so that you can order a T-shirt. And you sent me the T-shirt with this little envelope that says, "Thanks for the love. Here it is, reflecting back at you." And it's like a bonus pack of all these stickers. So I got the Muse Exchange. I got Clarity. Actually, this is Clarity himself. Nice headshot of Clarity. Uh, all these cool stickers. But something that is really, really special, and again, this I think is a testament to your passion of everything that you've talked about, your passion for language, your passion for humanity, and love, and that is this little envelope here. It says the war is over, and I think this is a unique little thing for everybody, right? This is not the same. So I got a little passage here. Notice the way light plays with the shadow. Notice the moment you're holding parade in your marrow. And it's like I'm imagining everyone gets their own little personal message, right? Or are they all the same?
No, they're not the same.
Yeah,
but they're not all different.
Okay, there's a few messages you have.
It's the same poem. It's the same poem torn up into portions, and it's been the most important thing I've written for the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. And the war is over. I wasn't prepared to recite it, but I can, because I think it's important to what you're doing here. And since you brought it up, can I tell the story about it?
Do it, absolutely. Please do. That's why we're here.
So in I don't know, maybe 2 years, I guess it was about 2 years ago, my therapist, she got really frustrated with me one time. She does that. She's mostly patient though. And she said, she's like, "Geez, Mike, the war is over." And I was like, she's like, this war, you're fighting this war. And just that changed something for me. And I just kept thinking about that. Mm-hmm. And I think it was like a week later, I took a writing workshop with Buddy Wakefield. And I think it was like the first prompt. What is the war that is over? Write yourself out of it. I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
Is this guy for real? Are these people for real?
Dude, the universe is constantly talking to you, it sounds like. That's amazing.
The universe is constantly talking to all of us, then. We just got to pay attention.
No, I know, but like so specifically with you. I mean, I know, and I've been definitely hearing and seeing all of that in action, words and concepts that are all just like, didn't I just wait? What? Oh, yeah, it's happening, man. We're in such a powerful time right now for humanity and the vibration of the planet, and what we're doing here, like you said, at this moment, it's like this is important stuff. So, go on.
I started writing this poem, and I had just gotten over COVID. I was, I'm prone to mental health issues. So COVID really got into my brain. It was really bad. And, I started writing, how do I write myself out of this poem, out of this war? And I learned about Hiro Onoda. Hiro Onoda was a soldier in the Japanese war in Japan in the Second World War, and he was part of this like 3 or 4 man troop that invaded Lubang Island in the Philippines, and he was so highly trained that he led this troop, and he was told, like, you do not surrender, you do not commit suicide, you fight this war until it's over, and then we'll come and get you. And the guy that told him that, like 3 days later, surrendered, and everybody else on his team within a few months gone, right? So it's just Hiro Onoda. And this son of a bitch sat in that jungle for 30 years, bro. 30 years fighting a war that was over. From 20, he went in that jungle as a 20-year-old, left as a 50-year-old.
Holy crap.
Right? and we tried to drop pamphlets, we tried to tell him, but he was so highly trained that he was like, no, anybody that's trying to save me must be my enemy,
Oh my
right?
God.
So like
Wow.
this stuff all sounded familiar to me, you know. And
Wow.
The day does not arrive in trouble. The rooster is not an air raid siren for incoming shame. The bed is not a trench to take cover. Stop taking cover. There are no landmines and eyes approaching. You're not at fault for the tripwire tongue. There are men losing truce with the truth. These are not your wars to be won. Stop falling on grenade guilt. Those explosions only hint at your strength. Spit the pins out the teeth of your seething. Let your longing disarm your disgrace. You are not impending death. Slide out of fatigue. Slide into now. This is not Mindanao. The war is over. You can no longer hide in the jungle awaiting your orders. The war is over. You are not Hiro Onoda. The war is over. You are the hero of nada. The war is over. We pleaded with you and you mistook it for proper. Ganda, we're sending in Emperor Washawa. The war is over. You're relieved of your duties. Find the release in your prana. The war is over. You'll be airlifted to the nearest asana. The war is over. Notice the way the light plays with the shadow. The war is over. Notice the moment. Notice the moment holding parade in your mouth. Fucking amazing the way you held on through that battle. I fucking love you. And I had to do all this just to tell you. I'm sorry I had to write all this just to tell you. Maybe we should go drink some water. I think we should go drink some water. Drink some water.
That's awesome, man. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for bringing that into existence. I love it.
Thank you for the Maui Reds, man.
Yeah, man. Wow. I had no freaking idea when you were saying that before. Maui Red. I had no. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna look for that post.
I was gonna say it's probably somewhere Facebook. If you look around
2014, right around that time.
December 14, December 13, January, February 14, right around there. Yeah.
Awesome.
I bet you.
Julie is saying, wow, we can all relate. Very emotional. Yeah, man. Clarity, I'm so grateful for you coming on the show and sharing yourself. And I mean, I feel like we just barely scraped the surface of everything that's underneath you and inside you. So I may have to have you back. I didn't prepare because I knew we just both had to show up for this, but maybe I'll prepare some specific stuff and we can have you back and do this again. Yeah, man. I love talking to you. I love the energy that you're bringing to the planet. I did.
Yeah, let your people know they can go to register for the workshop November 6th. Every Sunday in November, doing a virtual workshop live on Zoom. And you can register at claritysite.co.
Yep.
And you can do that now.
I think my girlfriend's going to take the class. I'm going to take it. She's going to sit with me for the next couple of weeks, and we're going to do it. So
nice, yeah.
We're very excited. What was I just going to say? Tell my people. Yeah, I mean everybody's here. It was so. I guess what I was going to say was again, the class was like complete connection between spirituality and getting inside of yourself in order to the poet within, the poet's eye, right? The poet's eye, it's called. I mean, it's just amazingly connected to everything that I know I talk about here on the live stream, and I know that the people watching like. So there you go. I would recommend it. You got any words of wisdom to depart with?
Be honest, be vulnerable, take risks, don't be a dick.
It's the basics. All good stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Drink a lot of water.
Drink water. Hang out 1 second. I'm going to put you backstage and sign off. And I just want to talk to you real quick before we disconnect. All right. So I'm just going to put you backstage. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. Powerful. Another powerful, amazing conversation. I freaking love being here on Thursday nights and talking to the people that I do. And I'm so grateful. A lot of these people are people who have been in my life and I've crossed paths with. Some of the people are people who I've just been introduced with. The Lori Ladd interview was amazing. Thank you, Jill, for getting Lori Ladd on the show. That was just amazing. And such an amazing conversation. Thanks, Lily. Thanks, Jill, for being here. Thanks, Wiz. Good to see you. I will see you on Monday on the Fool's Journey. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I think we had another amazingly successful show, and I'm going to be back next week. I think next week my guest is Jay Battlestrong, right? So that should be a good show. I do have the Long Island Gatsby Gala that day that I've been doing all of this work for at Tide and all of the print work, so I might be going to that day. And so you'll see me a little tired, or I might do the show from there or whatever. But that's what we're doing next week. I will see you there. Peace. Mwah.